to do with our COVID response.
Yes.
It's clear that it has been overhanded in comparison to other countries. Now, for instance, if you look at Kenya's COVID numbers, the number of positive cases are close to 500,000. That's about twice ours. And the number of deaths are going up to 5,000. That is about 4,900 and something, 61 or 60 as of today. So, but yet in Kenya, there is no 7 p.m. curfew, there is a 10 p.m. curfew. So that makes a very big difference.
Schools are open.
Schools are open. The economy is open.
Same thing in Tanzania.
Okay, Tanzania, you know, people do not want to talk about it because they took a completely different approach to COVID. But now Kenya is the one which took it's an approach similar to ours. But then their mitigations are not that high-handed to the point that they are closing down businesses and, you know, causing a complete disruption of so many things that should be going on. So, for instance, a lot of everything is happening in Kenya. You know, 10 p.m. curfew means that people work full day and they go home, so nothing is stopped as a result of a curfew. Now, in comparison here, you know, banks are closing at 3 p.m. because of the 10 p.m. curfew, and so many other, you know, institutions that should have gone full day, perhaps up to 5:30 or 6, are closing earlier because of the curfew, and that shrinks the economy further. I don't even know what curfew has to do with COVID. I've never understood that, and maybe I'm never going to understand it. So those are one of the things I want us to address. Why is it that countries
says the reason why they instituted this law, this curfew, especially it's for security purposes? They say they are unscrupulous individuals that were actually wearing their very ugly heads when we actually retreat to our houses. But then, if that curfew was largely to curb insecurity, we saw the opposite in Massacre.
No, it is. It has to be, because now it is very insecure moving around Kampala. Because there's a lot of desperate people who would otherwise perhaps be working somewhere, but who have been pushed to the corner and have resorted to theft. I'm not so sure many of them are habitual thieves. Many of them might have been pushed there. But then also, so we have to look at, so even if they insist there has to be some curfew because somehow it's been worldwide, even if it has never made sense, apart from Tanzania and so many other countries and other places. But why is it that countries that have had more deaths than us, actually almost twice as many deaths and twice as many positive cases, have actually eased up their economies and let people go and work? Why is our economy still locked down in very many cases? And
well, according to government officials here, they'll run to their defense and say that it's because these countries have expedited some kind of vaccinations. If you look at Kenya, Tanzania, more than 3 million vaccinations have taken root. Uganda only 1.7.
Which is not too far behind, by the way. Not too far behind. And actually, if you look at the targeted vaccination, people targeted to be vaccinated, that we're actually almost at par, so to speak. So there has to be a reason. There has to be an opening up of the economy. That's the honest truth.
Go ahead.
And there really has to be an opening up of the economy, and as well as other things in regard to our COVID response. So those are one of the things I want the president to talk about. Perhaps some other thing I would love the president to talk about is why there is so much insecurity and a lot of fear and a lot of death, especially in resource-rich places.
I see. Like Karamoja.
I'll tell you this. Karamoja is one of them, but I'll tell you this. I discovered recently that a lot of the Massacre region murders were in Ruengo district and were along the place where the oil pipeline is going to pass. And then I knew that they are supposed to be, paying people up for their land along the oil pipeline, and then the East African crude oil.
I see where you're going.
No. It's the truth. The ECOP thing said that Uganda has issues sorting land, land issues. So they said they are starting the pipeline in Tanzania because it was done much quicker there. People were compensated first. And now in all the compensation, you have to understand that the banks that even fund the whole thing expect that there are no human rights violations, that people are compensated accordingly, and there's no cheating and all that. So then suddenly you have a woman who is in a place where there is going to be a pipeline, an old woman who is looking. No,
where you're going.
Yes, but I'm just saying what there is.
All right.
I'm just saying what there is. So you find an old woman is killed very viciously, and you wonder why.
They don't take anything.
They don't take anything. Then you realize that she actually had land in a place where an oil pipeline was going to pass, and she was due for heavy compensation. And perhaps somebody thought it is easier to kill her than to give her all those millions of shillings. And then you realize that Rengo district, where the oil pipeline is passing, is where most of the Masaka region murders have taken place. So why is that? And then also you go, now you heard of, I saw it on NTV,
yes,
of in Tororo, in the Bukedi region, of the 18 bodies which were buried somewhere. Then I'm seeing police report, and they say it has something to do with the, the rail, where the rail line is passing. Somebody has land where the rail line is passing, and they're expecting compensation, so they buy,
So you're saying unscrupulous individuals are killing people who are in the areas where the oil pipeline is going to reach. Now, in Bukedi, the Ghana Railways line, where it's going to be, meaning state actors are killing people.
Well, I'm not going to say for sure state actors, but the truth is the state is the one supposed to compensate these people, and some of these people have been very, obstinate in regard to what they are supposed to get. They have been unyielding. They are trying to knock them here, because the honest truth is there is no way this government wants all those millions into the hands of villagers. That I know for sure. But then suddenly the people along that corridor start dying, and it is very, very suspicious for me.
It's not the ADF like the president tells us.
No,
it's not members of the National Unity Platform Party.
I can tell you that for sure it is not. And then I also tell you that every time that such a thing happens, I listen to what the president says, and the direction is seeming to point people, and I know that is not the direction to look. So when I heard him saying that those people have been defeated politically, as if they are political actors trying to push some political point, I knew definitely that's one thing to rule out, because I know that he does in scenarios like that. So I started doing my research. Then I looked at where the oil pipeline is going to pass, and then I looked at where people are dying, and then I came up with my conclusion. I may or may not be right, but the truth is there's a lot of smoke, and you can't deny that. Why would somebody come and kill an 80-year-old woman or something there about late 70s, and then do something? I'm thinking first of all ritual murders, but then I don't think that's ritual murders. Then I'm looking around and saying, what resource? Because I can tell you this, Romeo. Let me tell you this. I can tell you this. Everything now is about resource. All wars, every uprising in the world, not just in Uganda, is about one thing only, and that is resource.
You've opened a can of worms. It's like you're saying government would have been in a better position to kill these individuals and then not compensate them with billions of money, but rather give them some 10 million Ugandan shillings to every family that lost a victim.
I don't say government. I said,
who is going to be benefiting from this?
Well, whoever is responsible for the oil pipeline.
It is the government, Kabuleta.
Okay, since you have said government, then let's go with that. But the truth is that those people are dying across a place where the pipeline is passing.
But is this even highly conceivable? We have a lawyer in our midst, that is Simon Peter Musangala. Simon Peter Musangala, is this analogy or narrative coming in from Kabuleta even conceivable, that state actors, unscrupulous as they may be, could be killing people so that they could be not compensated in that regard? Over an oil pipeline, it's a different narrative from what is coming in from government, that political actors like the NUPS are people, Mohammed Sekiri and Alan Sewanina, were doing it. President Museveni at some point said it is the ADF and so forth, but then this is a different narrative coming in from Kabuleta. What is it conceivable?
Thank you very much. Of course, my senior brother here, yes, Kabuleta, has his entitled to his own opinion.
Indeed.
To begin with, some of the cases he has hinted on are before court, and the state, or rather the prosecution, has made its own investigations and found that certain people might be culpable or have a hand in whatever is going on in some areas that are experiencing insecurity, like Masaka.
Yeah.
Now, the analogy, his analogy of, let me say, people are being killed maybe because the government does not want to compensate them.
But let me just say this. It doesn't have to be government.
Okay.
It can be somebody who wants to stake a claim, an individual who wants to stake a claim on that land.
Anticipating that government at some point will compensate these people, because so they kill them, take over their land.
Yes, because compensations are supposed to start this year. At least they were supposed to start this year. So it might be Romeo killing somebody whose land he wants, so that he gets compensated.
But you've killed you've killed my relative. The story is all over the news. Everyone knows whom this land belongs to. How are you later going to come and claim?
Actually,
this is your land.
My issue is.
Yes.
I'm sure every person has got relatives.
Yes, Simon Peter.
You may kill Musangala, but you not kill his wife. You have not killed his children.
Yes, they are survivors.
So still, the survivors will definitely have to get compensated. So I think I'll take that analogy with a grain of salt.
Yes.
Suppose some people are trying to discredit the government in these areas, that the government is not in charge.
The government does not need any discrediting.
No.
That has been the narrative also coming.
It could be some people saying, look here, if you think you are in charge, I have been watching the media and somebody has been saying, okay, look here, we have a curfew in the country, people are being killed during curfew time
when
at
it's
night.
Supposed to be secure.
We are not supposed to be moving. So the other question is, who's supposed to take charge?
So do you think the narrative coming in from government is right, Simon Peter Musangala, when they say that these actors are trying to paint them in a bad picture, make them look bad in the midst of the people so that they could rise up and take on this government?
That could be a view from government, and you have heard the view of Kabuleta. The ultimate is, this matter is before court.
I see.
And I think as a lawyer, I would be uncomfortable to discuss it as it may hint to a subject.
Let's talk about the sidelines of this case. Go ahead.
Yes. So I think
the analogies don't have nothing to do with
it. Yes. Let's talk about the analogy. So Kabuleta's analogy, it is a bit difficult really to comprehend and believe. However, he might be right in his opinion.
I would want to know why you think it's difficult to believe, because there's too much coincidence.
In the fact that I want to take you to insecurity is not only in Masaka. We have had cases in Mbarara where you have had an OC, OC station, who was actually shot dead. He was called, invited to go to the scene, and he followed afterwards and he was shot. You have given an example of Tororo. First of all, right now, we even don't know when those people were killed. There is no report that has come out to indicate when these people were killed. What circumstances led to that? Because it is like a massive grave. These fellows were all found, you know. So until a report comes out to tell us when were these people killed, because a postmortem is able to disclose all that.
Yes,
suppose these fellows were killed a year ago. This is not the first time we are having mass killings. You have had Kabuleta. You know? 2000. So suppose we have people with beliefs like him who are doing certain things behind the back of the state actors. So I think we need a thorough investigation.
Simon Peter Musangala, you could be right when you say that there are forces that are trying to discredit the government as far as security is concerned. Museveni has premised this administration on the fact that it ushered in peace within the country. So do you actually unequivocally believe that there is someone or unscrupulous forces behind the shadows operating to just ensure that they show, no. The narrative from government that the country is secure is wrong. We are totally insecure. You remember 2017, 2018, after the election, the murders took center stage. It seemed like there was a concerted effort to show that there is no security in the country vis-a-vis the pointers or messaging coming in from government. This year, we've just come out of an election. Now the same murders are going on, taking center stage. Discrediting scheme.
One thing you need to know, the best achievement that this government premises itself on is peace and security. So I believe anybody can do anything to show that, look here, even the little one you are bragging about, you are not in charge. That's my honest opinion.
Kabuleta,
that doesn't
people trying to discredit government and not the other compensation of the land.
This government does not need any discrediting. They have done the most shameless things. They have killed people in broad daylight.
November protests.
They have done that before. They have burnt people in a wagon in Mukura. Who needs? I mean, they pride themselves in death. They came to power on the back of perhaps half a million people dead. So there really isn't any discrediting as far as security is concerned. And all these ADF rebel groups which conveniently show up every time there is a resource. Some of there was even one PRA, which apparently, I don't know, was a shadow, it was a shadow rebel group.
Yes.
So and we've had that every time rebel groups crop up, every time. But the real reason has to be something behind. And I can tell you this.
Yes.
there are so many places where resources came up. You go and ask a bit of what happened when, you know, with the Hoima thing and so on, where resources show up and suddenly people start dying, okay, mysteriously.
Shouldn't these murders have been rife in the Bunyoro sub-region?
They were there. They started long time ago. Yes, not machete, they were Butaimbwa, you know, iron bars. They were there, and people were killed with iron bars. And it was a big, you know, big news, except it didn't go nationwide like the massacre one. But people were being quietly killed, and quite a number of them actually over a period of time. So everywhere there is a resource, this is what happened. And by the way, even not just here in Uganda. I know this for a lot of African places where, you know, somebody has their piece of land, they are tilling it, then suddenly there is a resource.
Indeed.
And then, and even I know individual anecdotes, only I cannot go and, you know, but where something is discovered in his land and the person dies. Now the thing is, usually, while you say that there are relatives who will come and make the claim, first of all, as he said himself earlier on, there is a whole process of letters of administration and so on. Secondly, those people, because they are not the ones who built that thing, usually are in position to take less than the original person. Now, sometimes if the original person is stubborn and says, this is what my land is worth, this is what my house is worth, if you are going to pass the pipeline here, this is what. Now, if remember, the banks that fund insist that there should not be any human rights violations. Now, if there is any noise that comes out of the compensation process, you know, it's going to cause a problem with the funding of the project. So there should be no noise. People should be, the way it was in Tanzania, people should be comfortably compensated and relocated, and they are happy.
Let me take you back to massacre. They did arrest some 70 people. 10 of those suspects were actually arraigned in court and remanded. But then they did pinpoint themselves, the suspects. They pinpointed two politicians. They said, Noops, yes, Muhammad Sagirinya and Noops Alan Sewanyan actually sent us, gave us money to actually orchestrate these murders. Doesn't that dilute your analogy when you say this could be about land? That is quite as believable as telling me the sun is going to rise from the west tomorrow.
I totally do not believe that. There is absolutely. Let me tell you something. Like these boys, these noob people, that's not the politics they play. The politics they play, you know, they follow the news. The politics they play is, you know, politics of stealing the show. So if the news is in massacre, then they are there, you know, investigating and doing what for the cameras and so on. So their thing is following cameras. They are not. They do not understand the politics of that. If it was political, that's the ruling government. They are the ones who understand the politics of instilling fear. They did that during the Bush War. They've done that a lot of times here and try to instill fear, and sometimes at the cost of life. So those noob people are just showmen. They go where the news is, they go where the cameras are, telling me that they were involved in some kind of murder. I am not about to believe that, and there's no way I'm going to believe that. Not because I think they are saints, no, but because I know who the kind of people they are, the kind of people we are talking about, and I know that they would be the sort of people who would run to massacre when the cameras are there, and then they are, you know, somehow being seen to do, you know what I'm saying. So, so the truth is that is not an analogy at all. But then I also know that you check, now if you look at, go and check where the pipeline is passing, and tell me if the deaths are going to end just in Rengo. Tell me where the pipe is compensation, and that's the fact, and it's going to be there. Now I'm even telling you forward, so that you go and investigate and see if they will end just there, because they will not. And I know, because it has been happening even for every resource. Now in Bukendi region, there's a lot of minerals which have been discovered there, uranium, what? Now you're going to start hearing. Now these people who are buried, it's just the beginning. You wait, you'll see. Now if it does not happen, then maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but it is going to happen. These people are so predictable. They are very predictable, and they honestly believe that all the resource of the country belongs to them. So they will do anything to get their hands on it. Now the idea that some old woman is supposed to get 300 million because she has to kill her, in their way of thinking. So I'll leave it there. I'm just speculating.
Simon Peter Musangala, counter that narrative coming in from Kabuleta, so that we can crown that conversation and go to the National Social Security Fund bill.
I think it is. It's not.
Because you have suspects who are pinpointed.
It's not usually good to underestimate the power of somebody or somebody leading or somebody who has over 2 million people behind him. You know, you are talking about Nope. You are calling these people cameramen, but these are serious people. These are serious people on ground. The youths are following them. The people that are following them are the most disadvantaged. The youth are over, the largest population in our country are basically youths, and most of them are basically unemployed. Now, if we have an investigation taking place and somebody all of a sudden, I don't know whether that's wishful thinking or just wishing somebody bad, and then somebody comes up and says, okay, we have links here. You don't underestimate that intelligence. So I think let's give the prosecution a chance. It is good these people have been aligned in court, and the state has to prove their case beyond reasonable doubt against these people. So let's give them a chance.
So you don't think it's a political witch hunt?
You know, there's a difference between politics and criminality.
Yeah.
Yes.
It might be a diversion. I don't think it's a political witch hunt. It might be a diversion.
He could be right about the diversionary tactic, because experts have come out and they're saying 2026 is just around the corner. It's not too far. When we enter the next year, we shall be talking about only 2 more years until we start preparations for the campaigns. So they are saying this could be a ploy, a ruse to actually waste time for the National Unity Platform Party and their members, who are not going to focus on mobilization during this period, but rather going to court X and court B, fighting this litigation coming in from government, and not focusing on their mobilization of forces on the ground to take on President Museveni.
I think, if my opinion is, if that was the case, then the main targets would have been the people that the government can look at as a threat. But really, with all honesty, why is the threat of Segirinya in this country? Why is the threat of Aran Sewanyana? So I think let the process take its course. And I am pretty sure that if they have no case to answer,
all right,
I have confidence in our courts of law that they will be exonerated, and at the end of the day, they have a right to sue government, just like all of us have a right to do. All right,
let's flip the conversation and go to cases of torture. There have been so many accusations of torture that have been levied to our government. You remember the November protests? So many people were arrested. Some of them are still wallowing in Chitali and so many of the prisons within this country. Torture has existed within this country for a long time, especially during the campaigns. We saw so many people being tortured. President Museveni recently came out and said he was against it. A week later, we were seeing the VC of Victoria University actually being manhandled in that regard. Security operatives have continued to manhandle Ugandans. So does that mean that the president is not in control, Simon Peter Musangala? The fact that you're going to pass a directive and you say, do not torture people, and then these forces continue, does that mean he doesn't have control of his forces?
You know, it's a very interesting. You know, God is good, but
hallelujah.
God is good, but you don't need to play with the lion. Yes, you are saying God is good, but you are playing with the lion.
Is that a lesson you learned when you went to Chitali?
Of course, my OBs are there looking at us. And
in Chitali?
Yeah, there's a lot to learn there.
Right.
A lot to learn there. But I think torture is being hyped. Government has taken steps. Under the law, we have the Prevention and Prohibition of Torture Act of 2012. This act stipulates modalities of how torture victims are supposed to be handled, what amounts to torture, and so forth. The president is in charge of the country, and perhaps
does he have control of the forces?
On the realization that some state actors were doing instructing his men that, please, should you torture a suspect, personal liability. The president has come out and told his forces that, please, you don't need to beat suspects. But this does not mean that we don't have errant officers who have personal issues. Some of these fellows, some of the officers settle their own issues. Now,
using their power
to settle their own issues. You have had instances where people have been evicted. You know, torture is not only physical torture, it is also psychological torture and many other things. If you come and point a gun at me, that is torture.
So you mean these individual actors are just biased when they meet a young man putting on a red shirt and then they say, you look like a noob supporter, you look like a criminal, come to us. When they find you with dreadlocks, they are biased thinking you are a noob supporter, then arrest you. When they find you with a tattoo, they independently have a bias.
Romeo, I really don't go.
That you could be allied?
Really, I don't want to go into those nitty-gritties because there is no evidence on record that somebody has been arrested because of the dreadlocks. Somebody has been arrested because of a tattoo. I believe there is no smoke without fire.
Indeed.
Personally, I have been arrested. Okay? I have been arrested on being on a suspicion to do something. That's a matter in court. Let them settle it there.
The God's knowledge, then you get us into the God's camp. What really happened?
Thank you. Now, I believe whoever is arrested, that's what I'm saying. God is good, but don't play around with the elephant. I mean with the lion. They are saying it is the curfew time. It's 10 o'clock. You are moving. If they arrest you, because maybe at the time of arrest you are putting on a red t-shirt, they get you, you resist arrest, and so forth, you are manhandled. You know, torture must be condemned by all state actors, by all citizenry.
What justification is there for the torture that was meted out on noob supporters following their arrest in November?
I did discuss that issue sometime. You saw what happened. I happened to have an office on Buganda Road. You are having a scenario where you are having fellows armed with the stones. If you can play your cameras very well, there is a woman who was hit, a police officer, who was hit on the head and she fell down. Now, if police realizes that the force that the citizenry is using is really the force that needs now force which is ordinary to arrest a citizen, then they have to employ it. That's why even when we are dealing, even as ourselves, if a police officer comes to me and says, please, you are under arrest, we want to take you. Do you know that there are people in this country that have been victims, alleged victims of torture every time it happens? Members of parliament. There are some members of parliament, wherever there is a scuffle, they have actually been victims. I'm not going to mention their names. My brother, I want to tell you that,
yes, Simon.
I want to tell you that when bad luck chooses you as his companion, when bad luck chooses you as his companion,
because bad luck did follow you when you actually transacted that gold's case with Anastasio Belezio, the American, some 20 billion Uganda shillings.
Yes.
It's in court, but help us understand what really happened.
These are professional hazards. They are professional hazards. As lawyers, we manage